Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Motive, Social Motivation for the Creative Class. My name is Tim Fulton. Big thank you to our presenting sponsor, Midwest Photo Exchange. Our next featured creative this evening is Mr. Matt Slaybaugh. Please give him a round of applause.
Hello. Thank you.
Matt,
Thank you. How nice to be here.
Good to have you. Matt is the founding artistic director of Available Light Theater, born and bred in Columbus, Ohio, Dublin, Ohio. We lost him only for a couple of years at Miami, right?
Yeah, Miami of Ohio, among
Great.
other places.
Where he received a BA in theater, and through a couple other ways, he's now here.
Yes.
Tell everybody sort of the mission of Available Light and what Available Light Theater does.
Yeah, everyone came to hear a mission statement, right? Right? Yes! Available Light Theater is a fellowship of artists dedicated to building a more conscious and compassionate world by creating joyful and profound theater and by serving our community. Which means that we produce a whole bunch of shows a year, mostly downtown at the Rife Center, but also at other places around town. About half of those are shows or cool new scripts that we've found from playwrights around the country. About half of them are brand new world premieres that we develop ourselves. Some of those are adaptations of novels or graphic novels or science fiction stories and things like that. And a lot of them are just made up from scratch with a group of dedicated local artists.
How did you start doing theater?
I started doing theater like in Tom Sawyer in elementary school, like a lot of people who start theater. Yeah. Him too.
Tom Sawyer for you as well?
You get on the raft and go down the river. But I kept on doing it in high school, and actually it was when I was in my first year of college at the College of Worcester. I was a double major, of course, in theater and in jazz performance. But then there came a time when there was a show I wanted to work on, and then there was a concert at the same time. And the theater people and the music people both were very stubborn and said, well, you're going to have to choose. And it just so happened the play I was working on was really great. It was this really rock and roll punk rock production of a Václav Havel play. And so I quit the jazz band, and that determined much of the course of my life.
Talk about the founding of Available Light and sort of how it came to be.
Yeah, Available Light actually grew out of another theater company called Blue Forms Theater Group, which we started in 2002, technically. I actually had finished up at Miami of Ohio and stuck around because I met this girl. She's in the room. We're still together. Her name is Acacia. And so I was like cooking in a restaurant in Oxford, Ohio, the best place for culture in all of Ohio. But luckily, during that time, I had gotten really close to this woman named Anne Bogart, who's one of the two most renowned living theater directors in the world. And her company, the City Company, SITI, they come to the Wexner Center a lot. And I'd gotten really close with her company. So actually, it was meant to be. If I hadn't been there in Oxford, I would have been having all this time to go hang out with Anne Bogart. And so she asked, like, well, what are you going to do when you get out of here? What's your plan? And I said, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about starting a theater company. And she said, well, that sounds pretty good. I'm like, oh, I got a name. I made these business cards. And she looked at me. She patted me. She rubbed my head and said, Matt, if you're going to do it, or shut up and stop talking about it. And I said, okay, you're so smart. What should I do? She said, write a letter to everybody you know and tell them exactly what it is that you want to do and what you're going to accomplish. And I took it at her word, and I wrote like 50 letters to all my best friends, especially theater people and artists all over the country, even people I knew had no interest in being part of what became Blue Forms, and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make a lot of plays, a lot of new plays. We're going to really fuck some shit up. And it all starts on this date in Columbus, Ohio at the YWCA in this room we rented. If you want to be a part of it, show up. And like 20 people showed up. And out of that group of 20 people, about 12 really stuck around. And suddenly we have a theater company.
So was this like a meeting of the minds thing, or were you presenting to them, or?
It was mainly meetings of the mind. It was mainly a group of people that I already knew and knew that we had similar interests and similar beefs, and had kind of gathered a group of like minds. And that's who ended up in the room at that time.
And was it, and so continuing with that company, was it like 20 people, or? How many did you lose after the meeting?
After the meeting, we lost like 5 more. As we started to really dig in and do things, the people who stuck around, still to this day, we use the term throwdown, which actually it's a reference from a Sex and the City episode, which has nothing to do with theater or art, actually. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But we like to work with people who have throwdown. So the people who didn't have throwdown and therefore couldn't stand to, work till 3 a.m. for something they really cared about, they eventually fell away because they realized that's what it was about. And so we sort of split along those lines. Okay, so like half of us go off and become available light theater. There's another long story I could tell about the dark days when I quit Blue Forms Theater Group and I went away to Iowa City, Iowa, and directed this play called I Will Make You Orphans and met all these other artists who were making solo shows and touring the countries. And that's actually where the name Available Light comes from. A woman told me a story about a mentor of hers who, when she was really sick and wasn't able to finish her work, her mentor said, "What are you doing? You still got to finish. You got to work with your available light. You can't get out of bed because you're sick? Well, you got to figure that out." Available light is a film term. That means shooting with the light that is available, no superficial, no artificial light. And so that's the ethos that we brought. We already had that, but it really truly happened at the beginning of Available Light. We said, well, let's figure out what we can work with. I got my friend Dave, and Dave's really good at making sounds, and I've got me, and I can write a show. And for that first one, I was actually in it too, because I said, well, I got me and I can be in it. And that's what we got. And that first show actually was in Cincinnati at the Cincinnati Fringe Festival. We performed in a place called Caldy's Coffee Shop. Does anyone know that? It's like a bar on one side and a bookstore and a coffee shop on the other side. I was on a 6-foot by 3-foot platform. They said, that's the space you've got. So I said, great, let's put a desk, a chair, and a ladder, and 3 stacks of books in it to make it as little space as possible. And that was the first show. It was called The Absurdity of Writing Poetry. And maybe we'll do some of the poetry later.
That'll be good. I have 2 more things I want to talk to you about. One of them's you, and the other one's Columbus. And I'm going to leave it up to you.
Town.
You want to do that one first?
Sure.
Okay. Talk about theater is very specifically a local art form.
Yes, thank God. Yeah, theater's the most local art form, isn't it? Because you can put theater on film and watch it on the internet, but it's not theater anymore. It's not theater unless people are sitting in front of you in the room. And so... and this is what we put in our grants, but I truly believe it. As the modern world evolves and we get more and more connected digitally and things like that, getting people, well, gosh, what a great place to say this. Getting people together in a room to talk about stuff becomes more and more important because you can talk about things online, but we know the personal connection, the actual, exchange of energy and heat and things like that is really, really important and completely changes the conversation. Whether it's a conversation being had between actors, putting on a story for you to interpret and interact with, or if it's just a conversation like this. Columbus has a spirit to it that is, we'll use the word entrepreneurial, sure, but it has people like this who are interested in new things happening, and that's not true everywhere. We go and visit other places, and we do take shows other places, and there are towns that are, I'll use the word conservative, in that they're very happy with what they've got, and not necessarily looking forward to the new. They don't necessarily have the community that's looking around all the time going, what's new, what's new, what's happening, what's new, put it on Instagram, for God's sakes. That's a big virtue of Columbus. There's the virtue of it being within 600 miles of 60% of the country, and so actually a lot of artists do come through here. And the artistic community here is, just effing fantastic. That's, if you guys aren't, I'm assuming everybody's out and patronizing the arts all the time, but I'm amazed every day. You turn over a rock and you find somebody making some new amazing art. I got really crazy in Available Light when it was growing, and there was like a year where I didn't actually get out to much art. And then suddenly one day I woke up and I opened up the Columbus Alive, and I'm like, holy moly, I've never heard of any of this stuff. That's how quickly things grow and change in Columbus. And it's a real boon that it can keep challenging in that way. The difficulty, especially because I'm a theater person, is that the theater scene here is not great. It's not. Thank God for the Wexner Center. The Wexner Center brings through some really incredible artists that inspire us and challenge us. Because it's not just that we need a good theater scene so we've got lots of actors and playwrights and directors around. We need a good theater scene so that we have people challenging us as artists and pushing us to do better work. Right? We need competition like everybody else does. And there's not a ton of great competition specifically in theater in town, at least not in what we do. Our context is different from other theater companies like Short on a Stage, who are fantastic, but you're never going to find us fighting over a show where, it's apples to oranges. So I don't really have a presentation prepared. I'm going to run right back to the theater after this. But I'm really, really curious to know what's going on in the room. Collaboration is a big part of what we do, and how we always start our collaboration is just sort of looking around the room and saying, who are these people and what are we all doing here together and what have we come here for? So I really just, at this point, we'll get to talking and maybe we'll share some stories. Why are you here? What are you here for? What are you looking for? What are you seeking? This is like hipster church all of a sudden. Come to me, my children. I have this problem that I'm an introvert, and so, in fact, most of our theater company are introverts, which seems ridiculous. But we all have a real problem talking about ourselves and like bragging about what we're doing and things like that. And then we look around and we're like, why don't more people know about Available Light Theater? Because when we pass strangers in the street, we're like, You do that too? Are you shy about self-promotion?
I just feel like it's rude to talk about yourself endlessly.
Ah, it's rude to talk about yourself.
All the time.
All to talk about yourself all the time. Yeah. Does anyone else have that problem in trying to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish?
I think that's a Midwest manner.
Oh,
You know, I mean, I feel like people from the Midwest, you generally ask about somebody else before you're going to talk about yourself. That's at least my way that I.
that's what my mother taught me. That's for sure.
Yeah, where'd you grow up?
Here mostly.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
like northeastern Ohio. So Ohio.
I'm from Cleveland.
All generally the same, raised the same way. You know?
Yeah.
Think about other people first.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, people all the time are like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Oh, nothing." Well, if this were a different, maybe if this were a foreign country, we would look at that and say like, "Oh, well, that's a tradition. The first time you ask someone what's going on, they're going to say nothing, but then the expectation is that you'll ask them again and say, "No, no, really, tell me what's going on."
Yeah, that's what you do, right?
I think it's about being boastful.
Boastful. Who said that?
And maybe more about like what I did wasn't so cool because there's so many cooler people doing other cool things that I did that day.
Well, that's true. When people ask me, what have you been up to, there's definitely a certain level of me thinking, like, I don't really want to hear about my boring crap, right? Especially if it's like, maybe it's even worse with a friend, because I'm like, oh, they hear about me complain about the theater stuff or, talk about that all the time. Do you think this relates to the lack of urgency that we have in Columbus, Ohio? Oh.
Let's talk about. I mean, I've thought about our crisis of confidence. I haven't thought about our lack of urgency.
Somebody put it to me as a lack of urgency, and I actually thought that it seemed kind of true. That, well, this is probably not the group of people. Somebody's nodding their head, though. But there's certainly a lot of people who are, like, trying to do stuff, but there's something of an attitude of, like, it's okay if I don't work that hard today. I'll work that hard next week. And he related it specifically to Columbus, and I kind of believe it, that if you were in a bigger place, surrounded by more fierce competition, you would feel like, no, I have to stay up all night tonight.
I think that's a legit statement.
But at the same time, I don't know. I have never heard of you, and why is that?
That's a good question.
I actually care. I've just never heard of you.
Well, no. This is an interesting question. I'm going to ask the blunt question. Please forgive me. I don't mean to be insulting. Where do you go normally when you want to find out about theater?
To the Wexner Center.
To the Wexner Center. But I mean, like, when you want to know about theater, do you look in the Dispatch or Columbus Monthly or?
None of that really. Just talking friends.
One of my challenges is that every minute that I'm doing something like this, or oh my God, spending 20 hours a week in QuickBooks, which is the bane of my life, doing spreadsheets and all that other sort of stuff. Every moment that I spend doing that, I'm thinking to myself, I need to be writing a play right now. I should be in rehearsal right now. That's what I'm on this earth to do. And so, and maybe that's an excuse. Actually, maybe that's an excuse, because I'm using my introversion and the fact that I should be writing a play to avoid spending more time doing things like this. And maybe you're right.
Well, you said you don't even like being on stage, but you're doing a good job at it, so you should just go out there and promote your brand or your company, what you're doing.
You're very kind. I did bring my wife. She asked me, "Do you need moral support?" I said, "Oh, please." I would have been sitting at that table by myself, not talking to anybody, if she hadn't been here. So I appreciate your support too, but I don't know. I got issues. What are your issues?
Obviously, fear.
Yes, fear. We keep coming back to that. Well, it is fear, isn't it? Right? Can we just have a shy half raise of hands for people who, in thinking about the process of going to the theater, there's something about that makes you feel just a little bit uncomfortable, like you're not sure how this is going to go. Oh, the Rife Center. What is that, and where do you park? No, don't apologize. You're absolutely right, because this is what we find. Like, you know, the NEA does surveys of like why people don't go to the arts, and they say it's because people don't know what they're supposed to wear or where they're going to park. And it's at the Rife Center. You can park right under the Rife Center. There's an entrance from Front Street. They have unfortunately made it incredibly difficult to park downtown. If you're trying to go to a show that's like 2 hours long, and you go to a parking meter at 7:45, and you can see you only get 2 hours in the parking meter, you're screwed, right? How are you? Thank you for supporting downtown arts. Anyway, I don't know where that came from. Well, let me tell you, if you come to an Available Light show, you can wear whatever you want. We totally want people to be casual. This is a great.
How much does it cost?
That's a great segue. That's a great segue. Let me tell you one of my favorite things about Available Light Theater. Available Light Theater since March 2008. Every show, every seat for everybody, all the time is pay what you want. Let's repeat it. Every seat, every show for everybody, all the time is pay what you want, which is exactly what it sounds like. Yes, this is actually my full-time job. We have actors who get paid. We have a large budget, which is public knowledge, and you can look it up online. Every show is pay what you want. So if you show up at the door and you got a family of 5 and you say, I'm sorry, we have $2.50, that's our entertainment budget for the week, we're going to say, come in, we hope you enjoy the show. If you come up to the box office, you say, hey, it's me and my wife, and we'd each like to pay $50. We're going to say, that's great. Come on in and enjoy the show. It's like being on an airplane. You have no idea what other people around you have paid for their ticket. But I'll tell you, it is the most exciting, diverse, the most young, the most interesting audience to have in a show. It truly changes the art when the people in the audience are of such a variety. Because let's face it, most of the time you go to the theater, and the audience is pretty homogenous. I mean, I love the Wexner Center, but I go in there and it's people who look like me or me in 25 years. and it's either that or it's OSU students sitting in the front with a notebook, right?
Who are there because of a class
Because
requirement.
of class
right?
requirement, absolutely, and they paid $6 for their ticket or whatever. So, but the point is, yeah, if you come to our theater, you will see families, you will see young people, you will see people from all different parts of town being friendly to each other and enjoying the show. And then we always have these great talkbacks afterwards where people share their views on what they just saw, and the artists can tell you about the process. You can get your questions answered and things like that. And it's just a really fantastic atmosphere. Pay What You Want is one of the things I'm most proud of. Absolutely everybody told us that we were absolutely insane to do that. The granting organizations still have no idea what to do with us. We should be out of business by now. While the rest of the country was going through a giant recession and the other arts organizations were having to cut back, we doubled our budget and then doubled our budget and then doubled it again. And because of Pay What You Want. So I don't know what that means. Thank you. Yeah. But and it is the greatest thing. Here's my favorite statistic. Of the people that come to Available Light shows, about 1/3 take advantage of Pay What You Want. There's a little sign when you come in that says like this show costs $24.61 per person. So if you want to pay like your share of the total cost of the show, here's what you can pay. About 1/3 of the people pay less than that. They take advantage of Pay What You Want in some way, shape, or form. About 25% of the audience, though, pays more than that. And those are the people that know that they're supporting. I mean, this is like socialism or something, right? But those are the people who know that if I pay a little bit extra, then those other folks can also afford to go to the theater, and we can afford to keep it. Pay What You Want. I'm incredibly proud and incredibly moved by those people. Where do we go from here, sir?
I think we thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We clap for you. Once again, Matt Slaybaugh, thank you so much.
Thank
Matt.
you so much, everybody.